Well, as of this recording, I'm having heart surgery in a mere 5 days. And I have a lot of thoughts about it. And so I thought I would share some of them here. And I'm going to nerd out just a little bit, but I won't go deep into nerding out. You find transformation spiritually by going inside. So for me, knowing that I'm going to have heart surgery on Tuesday and not having any control over the outcome. Wow, I got an update on my phone the other day that I have not missed a day in 175 days of meditation. And I think that's so cool because I never used to be able to meditate.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy, a Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Eternally Amy. I'm Amy Liz Harrison, and I am your host. And I have a chainsaw or a table saw going in the backyard. It's actually not in my backyard. It's in our neighbor's backyard. So sorry about that. I swear it's the weirdest thing. Every time I'm going to go and record something, there's something happening in my house. It's like Christmas break and there's kids at home, or there's a leaf blower outside, or a ginormous storm or something like that. But yeah. So anyway, life, right? Life. Ah, well, as of this recording, I'm having heart surgery in a mere 5 days. And I have a lot of thoughts about it. And so I thought I would share some of them here. And I'm going to nerd out just a little bit, but I won't go deep into nerding out. That'll be saved for another episode. This is just kind of the language of the heart today, and a little bit of nerding. So for those of you who don't know, I had viral myocarditis 7 years ago, and I was on a trip to Spain, and I had symptoms of heart failure that I didn't know were symptoms of heart failure, because we're not told these things as women usually, which is why I want to make sure that I'm a voice for that purpose, as well as sobriety and other things. But it's just so important to, have women know that it's for us too. And I think it's one of those things where I don't know, your heart is so important. There's something about the heart. And I swear I'll probably write about this at some point, but the heart being the seat of the soul, the center of the soul. There's something emotional that happens when your heart is threatened, when your heart is ill, physically ill. This is going to sound weird, but it's almost as if your child is ill. It's a very similar emotion, where this is my experience, obviously. And you get this very strange feeling of powerlessness, and it feels like your entire being is threatened, right? I've had surgeries before, ailments before, things happen, broken bones, and just nothing has the power that the heart has. If somebody were like a real intellectual or something, maybe it would be the brain. But for me, it's the heart. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. And okay, so for those of you who don't know, I grew up in an evangelical Christian church, and these days I practice more spirituality. And I would say that I practice more Christian mysticism than anything else. And so there is this lady, Saint Teresa of Avila, and she was a doctor. She was one of four female doctors in the 1500s in Spain, which I don't, that's not lost on me, by the way, that that she wrote this book that I really identify with in terms of my heart. And that my heart condition started when I was on a trip to Spain. I don't know. I just see those interesting synchronicities all the time. And it was during a time, the 1500s were very spiritually policed, right? And women, they weren't encouraged to have original thoughts, especially about God. Hashtag not much has changed. Just kidding. There are some churches who have stepped up to 2026 and have a more progressive viewpoint about the patriarchy and have grown along with our times, right? And some not so much. So St. Teresa was born in 1515 and she became a Carmelized nun. And of course, that's another reason I identify with her because I am obsessed with caramel. So there's that. I mean, say less, hand me a Twix bar. And I'm just kidding. I know it's a different thing. Thank you for not coming for me in the comments. But anyway, she became a saint in her later years. And she was in her 60s when she wrote this book that I'm going to talk about. It's called The Interior Castle. And basically, what she's saying in this book, and she compares her soul, her center, she calls it an interior castle. Okay. And Father Richard Rohr, he wrote a two-part series called Falling Upward and Immortal Diamond. And Immortal Diamond is talking about the soul, finding your center, finding your soul. It's right along those same wavelengths. So essentially what St. Teresa was saying in this book is you don't find spiritual transformation or any kind of transformation by really just trying harder and listening to what other people say. You find transformation spiritually by going inside. So for me, knowing that I'm going to have heart surgery on Tuesday and not having any control over the outcome. Wow. I mean, you know, like, I think I'm okay with my mortality until I'm on the table and it has to do with my heart. When I'm on the surgeon's table and it's a heart thing, it's totally different. You suddenly just get this shot of like, oh, mm-hmm, this could be the end. And of course, any day could be the end, right? But that's how I have found my center, is by going inward. And I'm going to have to tap into that today, now, during this time, and for the next few days. And it's part of my regular life. So it's not hard for me to do. I'm also a meditation teacher on Insight Timer. So it's always right there for me to connect with God. And I do that through breath work. I do that through guided and silent meditations, through walking meditations, through labyrinths. And that side of spirituality, it has been like laying down a 40-pound backpack. It's just so enlightening and so refreshing. And essentially, that's what Teresa of Avila is saying about the interior castle. So for me, I'm equating the interior castle to the heart. Heart/soul, same for me. The heart obviously having physical components, but also the heart being the center, the seat of the soul. So what St. Teresa did was she talked about all the things you weren't supposed to talk about then, I mean, she was bold, she was risky, she had balls, not really, but she had a low tolerance for nonsense, for BS. And she did this because she believed so much in the messages that she had to share. And, this was one of them. And like me, she wrote, and she wrote mostly about personal experiences like I do. And so she describes the soul in this book, The Interior Castle, as a crystal castle with many rooms. And these rooms are full of distraction and noise. And then there are rooms that are full of more clarity. And then there is that center, which is the deepest place of truth. So Teresa, she's talking about self-regulation through finding God. And it doesn't happen, as I mentioned, by striving for it, okay? So like if you've read Pilgrim's Progress, which is one of the books that I used to teach in 10th grade English when I was teaching at a Christian school, it's like Christian goes on this journey and he's led through all these different places, meets all these interesting characters and, goes through all these challenges. And it's hard, right? It's so difficult. But what St. Teresa is saying, it's her experience that, nope, you don't have to do that. You can find this diamond. You can find this beautiful crystal interior castle without trying. And it's amazing. I'm not going to, as I mentioned, I'm not going to nerd out on this today, but there's a whole progression of the book. There's these phases. Okay. One is like a silkworm phase, and one is like a cocoon phase. Anyway, essentially, it's these different stages of getting to know God or the inner divine in all of us, which is just already there waiting to be met, right? Our true union with God. And eventually her stages of the rooms of these castle wind up in what she equates to the marital bed, the ultimate union between us and God. And of course, this does not mean we're having sex with God. I don't want anyone to go there in their mind that that's what I'm saying, but I am saying true connection at its most honest and raw level with God, because we have God in us, which is something I was never taught growing up in the evangelical church. So, in terms of neuroscience, this is what Saint Teresa is describing, is that there are these outer rooms where most of us live, right? They represent decision making, comparison, judgment, criticism, anything in the sympathetic nervous system. So, I'm a life coach, certified life coach. And if you've done any work with a wellness coach or a life coach, you know that, or with a therapist, you know that there's a sympathetic nervous system, right? And that's like fight, flight, freeze, cortisol spiking up. And then there's a parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system, that is where I know that I prefer to live. And it's para, okay, means together, means alongside. It's a Greek word for alongside. And so that's what I try to do, is get to my parasympathetic nervous system. And I do that through daily meditation. I got an update on my phone the other day that I have not missed a day in 175 days of meditation. And I think that's so cool because I never used to be able to meditate. And also, I had told myself, well, I have ADHD, not going to be able to meditate. And of course, when I was a kid growing up in the church, meditation was taboo, right? That was like of the devil, it was prayer only. So, anyway, back to the parasympathetic state. So, yeah. So it's a Greek root word and it's a Latin prefix for any other words, right? That mean, like a paratrooper, right? You go two people, you go alongside, right? So you go with somebody for protection, for defense, used in a lot of other words. And I just think it's so beautiful that that is the word that helps represent. That's how we're going to be at peace, is we get to that true center. We get to see that divine in us. And when we're with that divine, we're calm. We're calm. And so, why emotions generally run the show is that, stress, it doesn't come from working too hard and all of this. Like stress and cortisol levels, again, if you've done any inner work, yes, it can be called stress, but really it's about emotional dysregulation. And so, when I know when I'm out of alignment and out of balance, right? My anxiety levels are high, and it creates these chronic just states of anxiety, discomfort, worry, fear on different levels, right? And Saint Teresa of Avila she says that it is the fear that keeps us from moving forward. And so it's almost like we're in a river and we're stopping our own flow. So if we were to just let go, right? If we were just to let go and let ourselves be carried, we will get to that center faster. We will get to that center effortlessly, is what she was saying. And so, there are leads that go into my heart. So there's this institute called the Heart Math Institute, right? And it talks a lot about the physical heart and the brain, right? And the connections. And that 9 times out of 10, people will recognize, oh, like my heart actually knew that before my brain knew it. I can think about the first time I saw my husband, for example. My heart knew he was going to be significant somehow in my life. I didn't know what that looked like with my brain, but my heart knew it. And I remember shaking his hand and thinking, yes, you are good, you are right. I felt a synergy and a connection. So sometimes, when we're in that emotional state of just feeling out of sorts, and we know that, we need to get to that parasympathetic state, it's just sometimes a little harder to get there than other times. And that's okay. And I'm going to tell you that I started out when I found out I was going to have this heart surgery. I was pissed because the battery on my defibrillator essentially ran out sooner than it should have. I was told in June of 2026 we would be having conversations and starting to make plans about what to do. And it's nobody's fault. This particular unit ran out faster than we anticipated. Still within the realm of normal, but it started beeping one day in my closet. And so once I had my son come and stand by me, I was like, Alex, do you hear this? Is that me? And he was like, yeah, that's crazy. I can hear your defibrillator. It was like, ah. So I got myself to the doctor shortly thereafter, and they turned off the beeping. But yeah, it was a warning. It was a warning. In the same way, I had to do some emotional work over the next few weeks because I found myself just in a position where I was scheduling surgery. There was a chance prior to my scheduling surgery that we were going to be able to talk about with my cardiologists removal of the defibrillator entirely because my heart itself is in such good shape. So my ejection fraction, if you know anything about that, that's the quality of how the heart pumps, right? And like a normal ejection fraction is anywhere from like 55 to 65, 63, 65, somewhere in there. And I'm at 55. So I'm at the low end of normal now, which is amazing. And honestly, it's like, hey, thank you, modern medicine and God, but thank you to the spirit of the universe for providing tools to help make it easy for my heart to heal. What a blessing, because these medications make it so that my heart doesn't have to work as hard. But I had a resentment that perhaps I could have looked into having the entire thing removed, plus the leads that lead from the defibrillator into my heart removed. I wanted the whole thing gone, okay? For two reasons. First of all, because my heart was doing so well that I was like, why would I walk around with this emergency defibrillator on my chest? It seems ridiculous when my heart is doing fine, right? And also because of my small frame, it sticks out and it's painful. I can't drive for very long because the seatbelt irritates it. I bump into things. It bruises my skin when I do that. If you hug me, you can feel it. It protrudes quite a bit. And working out, carrying a backpack, all these things are tough because it sticks out so much. And so the thought that I could get it out permanently was pretty attractive. And as it turns out, I didn't have enough time to really look into that and get the proper permissions, research, all of the things that I would need to research, the different places I could have that done. Um, and neither one of my cardiologists could really say, yeah, that's a good idea, you know? Um, Statistics have shown that if you quit taking your medication as a heart patient, like say I'm like, hey, I'm good. I don't need to take it anymore. Statistics have shown, boom, you start getting sicker. And in a lot of cases, wind up back where you were. And my ejection fraction when I started this journey was 7%. 7, which my heart failure doctor said is not conducive to life. And so that just gives you a little picture about why I have this in here. And so I found myself down this road when I started beeping in November of suddenly now, oh, here I am. I'm on the surgery list. This is all being planned without my permission and without my go ahead. And, I felt like I was getting a little bit screwed. I wasn't truly at peace with it, right? And what I had to do to get to be at peace with it was realize that I had to detach from this outcome, right? And in order to get to that inner room, that inner circle, right, of my interior castle, I had to let go. And so that's the thing. I had to act my way into new thinking by letting go. It's the same thing that Saint Teresa talks about. So I know that for me, I can't just force healing from a regulated state. It just it doesn't, it doesn't work for me. I can make a conscious choice to let go, but I'm not forcing it and ready to let go. I just have to do it scared. And that's what I have to do with this surgery is I have to just do it scared. And quite honestly, you know, I've been attending a meeting the past few days that's like a medical meeting, people with medical issues who are supportive of each other. And, it's one of those things where I'm not comfortable yet, but I'm certainly getting there. I'm certainly in that process. I'm certainly on the pathway. And you know how I know that I'm there, that I'm at the center, that I'm in the inner chamber of my heart, is when I can truly say, yep, nothing. I feel so connected that I need nothing. I don't need to be assured that everything is going to come out okay. I just need my center connection. That's what I need. That's how I'll know that I'm there. I'll need nothing except for Xanax going into it. And it'll be fine. I mean, that's just to get me in the building, you see. Um, and I do take medications in my sobriety when needed, as directed by a doctor, and I take them as prescribed and only for what they're prescribed for. So, not about religion, but about spirituality. It's about getting to know our inner tree. And Saint Teresa of Avila, she encourages us, don't hang out in those outer rooms. Don't hang out in the hallway with your headphones on. Get up and let go. Stand up and let yourself be carried through those rooms until you get to the center. All right. I love you so much. Thanks for listening today. And remember to be kind, rewind. Thank you so much for the honor of your time. And take what you like, leave the rest behind.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. You can keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.